For years, Dwayne "Dog" Chapman was one of television's most recognizable faces, the tough, leather-clad bounty hunter who chased fugitives through dark alleys and across the Hawaiian Islands with his wife Beth by his side. His long blonde hair, gravelly voice, and larger-than-life persona made him a household name. But behind the sunglasses and handcuffs, Dog's real story is far more complicated and heartbreaking than most fans ever realized. Once at the height of fame, starring in a hit reality series that drew millions of viewers every week, Dog the Bounty Hunter seemed unstoppable. But then, everything began to crumble. Personal tragedies, health scares, family feuds, and legal battles pushed him out of the spotlight. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, Dog was a shadow of the man the world once cheered for. It all began with an unimaginable loss: the death of his beloved wife, Beth, in 2019. Her passing left Dog completely broken, both emotionally and spiritually. But that wasn't the end of his struggles. In the years that followed, rumors swirled about his health, his finances, and even his relationships with his own children. Some fans wondered if he'd ever return to TV again, or if the bounty hunter had finally hung up his badge for good. In this emotional look back, we uncover what really happened to Dog the Bounty Hunter, his rise, his fall, and the shocking truth about where he is today. Before he became one of television's most famous bounty hunters, Dwayne "Dog" Chapman's life was anything but glamorous. Born in Denver, Colorado in 1953, Dog grew up in a strict household where discipline and survival were part of everyday life. As a teenager, he fell in with the wrong crowd, a choice that would haunt him for years to come. At just 23, he was convicted of aiding and abetting in a murder and sentenced to 5 years in prison. It was there, behind bars, that his story of redemption truly began. During his time in prison, Dog found faith and purpose. He watched as law enforcement officers brought in new prisoners and realized that catching criminals could be his way of giving back. When he was released after serving only a portion of his sentence, he vowed to turn his life around, and he did. He began working as a bounty hunter, chasing down fugitives who had skipped bail. His larger-than-life personality, fearless attitude, and unorthodox style quickly made him a legend in the industry. But it wasn't just his skills that made him stand out. It was his compassion. Dog often prayed with the people he captured, offering them second chances instead of judgment. That mix of toughness and heart would later become the foundation of his fame. In 2004, the world got its first real glimpse of Dog's life when Dog the Bounty Hunter premiered on A&E. The show followed Dog, his wife Beth, and their family as they tracked fugitives across Hawaii and the mainland. Viewers were immediately captivated. Dog's booming voice, his long blonde hair, and his emotional connection to both his work and his faith made him unlike anyone else on TV. Beth, fierce and loyal, was the perfect counterpart, the heart of the team and the rock of the family. The show was an instant hit, becoming one of A&E's highest-rated series. Fans tuned in not just for the thrilling chases, but for the humanity behind them. Dog wasn't a typical bounty hunter. He saw the people he caught as broken souls in need of redemption. "Everybody deserves another chance," he often said. For many viewers, he represented something rare, a man who had walked through darkness and found light. However, as the cameras kept rolling, cracks began to form. Fame came quickly, and with it came stress, financial pressure, and public scrutiny. Dog's private life was no longer private. Rumors of family disputes, strained relationships, and behind-the-scenes arguments began to surface. At times, even his relationship with Beth, once the emotional center of his world, faced challenges under the glare of reality TV. Still, the couple persevered. They became icons of resilience, continuing to film even when their personal lives were unraveling. But behind that familiar smile, Dog carried years of pain and guilt, from his time in prison, his struggles with faith, and the guilt of not always being there for his many children. By the late 2010s, tragedy struck in a way that would forever change Dog's life. Beth Chapman, his partner in both love and work, was diagnosed with stage 2 throat cancer. Dog stood by her side through every treatment, every hospital visit, and every moment of fear. Their love story, once a symbol of strength, now became a battle against time. When Beth passed away in 2019, the man who had spent his life catching others suddenly found himself unable to outrun his own heartbreak. "I've lost my partner," Dog said tearfully at her memorial. "She was my everything." That loss marked the beginning of a new, painful chapter in Dog's life, one filled with grief, confusion, and a desperate search for meaning. The man who once chased fugitives across continents now struggled to find his way forward. Beth Chapman's death in June 2019 marked a devastating turning point in Dog the Bounty Hunter's life. For more than 3 decades, she had been his partner in every sense, in love, in faith, and in the hunt. Her fiery personality balanced his impulsive nature, and together they built not only a business but a legacy. When cancer took her away, it shattered Dog in ways he never imagined possible. In interviews following her passing, Dog spoke openly about the depth of his pain. "I don't know what to do," he confessed. "I've lost my partner. She used to tell me what to eat, what to wear, and how to breathe." The house that once echoed with laughter and radio chatter now felt unbearably silent. Dog often said he still heard her voice guiding him, even in her absence. Grief took a visible toll on him. Friends noticed that he began to lose weight rapidly, sometimes skipping meals and sleeping little. Those who knew him best said that he was consumed by loneliness and guilt. Guilt for not being able to save Beth, and guilt for the times he had taken their moments together for granted. As months passed, his health began to falter. Reports surfaced that Dog had been hospitalized after suffering a heart-related scare. He admitted later that his doctor warned him about stress and exhaustion. "I thought I was going to see her again," he said quietly. But despite the danger, Dog refused to slow down. He felt he had to keep moving, keep chasing, because stopping meant facing the emptiness Beth left behind. Unfortunately, grief wasn't the only challenge Dog faced. As he tried to pick up the pieces, his relationships with some of his children began to fracture. Disagreements over family matters, finances, and even his decision to start dating again created a storm of tension. Some of his kids felt he had moved on too quickly, while others defended him, saying he was just trying to survive. The once tight-knit Chapman clan was now deeply divided. When Dog announced his engagement to Francie Frayne in 2020, a woman who had also lost her spouse to cancer, the public reaction was mixed. Some fans celebrated his attempt to find happiness again, but others accused him of betraying Beth's memory. Dog, however, made it clear that he would never stop loving Beth. "She's still with me," he said. Francie understands that. She's been through the same pain. Yet even as he tried to rebuild his life, Dog couldn't escape the weight of his past. His reality shows struggled to regain their former popularity, and media headlines often focused more on his personal controversies than his bounty hunting. Lawsuits, canceled projects, and online criticism took their toll. But beneath all of it, the real story was a man fighting to hold on to purpose after losing the one person who kept him grounded. In one particularly emotional interview, Dog admitted that he sometimes questioned why he was still alive. "I've had guns pointed at me, knives thrown at me, but nothing hurts like losing Beth. I'd rather face 10 fugitives than face that pain again." Despite everything, there were moments of hope. Dog leaned on his faith more than ever, reading his Bible daily and praying before each new day. He also began speaking publicly about grief, using his platform to encourage others to keep going. "You don't get over it," he said. "You just learn to live with it." As the years went on, Dog's appearances became less frequent, and fans started wondering where he'd gone. Rumors circulated about his health and financial situation, but those close to him said that what he really wanted was peace, something he'd spent his whole life chasing but never truly found behind the leather vest and the iconic sunglasses was a man still searching for redemption, not from the law, but from his own heart. After years of grief and heartache, Dog the Bounty Hunter tried to move forward, but the road ahead was far from smooth. In 2020, his engagement to Francie Frayne, a Colorado rancher who had also lost her spouse to cancer, marked what many hoped would be a new beginning for him. For a while, Dog seemed to find comfort in her presence. Francie brought a sense of calm and stability into his chaotic world, helping him rediscover small joys he'd forgotten after Beth's passing. The couple married in September 2021 in an intimate ceremony surrounded by friends and some of Dog's children. But not all his kids were present. The absence of several family members, including daughters Bonnie and Cecily, fueled rumors of a growing rift within the Chapman family. Soon, those private tensions spilled into the public eye. Bonnie later revealed in interviews that she and her sister had been cut off from the wedding guest list, claiming that personal disagreements and political differences caused the divide. She also accused her father of losing himself after Beth's death and distancing himself from parts of the family that reminded him of the past. Dog, for his part, denied those claims, insisting that his love for his children had never changed. But the damage was done, and the once solid family that America had watched for years was now painfully fractured. Despite the personal turmoil, Dog tried to make a comeback in his professional life. In 2021, he launched a new project called Dog Unleashed, a streaming series that promised to show fans a raw and unfiltered side of bounty hunting. It was meant to be a bold return, one that would prove Dog still had what it took to command the screen. However, the show never saw the light of day. Before it even premiered, the production company canceled it, citing contractual breaches and behind-the-scenes disputes. The fallout led to legal threats, online drama, and a wave of disappointment from fans who had been eagerly waiting for his return. The cancellation hit Dog hard. Not only was it a financial setback, but it was also a blow to his pride. He had hoped that Dog Unleashed would be his chance to reclaim the legacy he and Beth had built together. Instead, it became another painful reminder of how much had changed since she was gone. Around the same time, Dog found himself at the center of several controversies. Old recordings and past remarks resurfaced online, sparking criticism and debate about his views and conduct. Some fans defended him, saying he was a man of faith who had made mistakes. Others turned away, arguing that fame had clouded the man they once admired. Through it all, Dog remained defiant but weary. "I'm not perfect," he said during one podcast interview. "I've fallen, but I've always gotten back up." In private, friends say he became more reclusive. He spent long stretches of time at home in Colorado, focusing on his marriage with Francie, tending to their ranch, and quietly mentoring younger bounty hunters. Occasionally, he'd post updates for his loyal fans, short videos or messages of faith and resilience. His health, however, continued to be a concern. Sources close to him claimed he was dealing with chronic pain, breathing issues, and heart complications that sometimes forced him to slow down. Even so, the fire inside him never fully went out. Dog continued to talk about returning to TV or writing a new book about his life after Beth. "The world still needs hope," he said. "And if I can help someone through my story, then maybe that's what I'm still here for." Though his fame had dimmed and his family divided, Dog the Bounty Hunter's will to fight remained, not for ratings or glory, but for peace. For a man who spent his life chasing fugitives, the greatest capture left for him now was his own redemption. After years of heartbreak, health battles, and public scrutiny, Dwayne "Dog" Chapman has slowly begun to rebuild his life, not as the reality star chasing fugitives across the islands, but as a man seeking peace after decades of chaos. His world is quieter now, yet still carries the echoes of everything he's endured. And perhaps for the first time in his long, turbulent life, Dog isn't chasing anyone but himself, the person he lost along the way. In recent years, Dog surprised fans with a comeback of sorts. He returned to television with Dog's Most Wanted and later Dog Unleashed, both of which aimed to recapture the energy and passion that made his early shows so popular. But things weren't quite the same. Beth's absence was deeply felt, and Dog often appeared more reflective than before. "I still hear her voice in my head," he once said. "She's the one who pushed me to keep going." Then came his marriage to Francie Frayne in 2021, a woman who had also suffered her own devastating loss. Their shared grief created a deep bond, and fans saw glimpses of the old dog returning. Together, they began traveling, attending church events, and even working on community outreach programs. For Dog, it wasn't about the fame anymore. It was about redemption, healing, and faith. But even with these positive changes, challenges have never been far behind. Dog has faced public criticism over strained relationships with some of his children, and tabloids have often painted him as a man still haunted by his past. Yet those close to him say he's trying harder than ever to mend fences and live in peace. "I've made a lot of mistakes," Dog admitted in one emotional interview. "But I'm not done yet. God's not done with me." His faith has become the guiding force in his later years. Dog frequently speaks about finding strength through prayer and forgiveness, crediting his spiritual awakening as the reason he's still standing. "I should have been dead a long time ago," he once said, "but God keeps giving me another sunrise." Today, at 72, Dog Chapman's life is a mix of reflection and resilience. He's still active on social media, connecting with fans, sharing tributes to Beth, and promoting his book, 9 Lives and Counting. In it, he writes openly about the pain of losing Beth, his battle with depression, and the difficult process of finding joy again. It's not the kind of story that ends with a triumphant capture, but with acceptance, growth, and love. Dog may never return to the chaotic life that made him famous, but that's okay. He's finally learning what peace feels like, even if it took a lifetime to find. In interviews, he's often said that his biggest lesson wasn't about catching fugitives, but about forgiveness, forgiving others, forgiving himself, and trusting that redemption is possible for anyone. As for the question, what really happened to Dog the bounty hunter? The answer is both heartbreaking and inspiring. He lived through unimaginable loss, the collapse of fame, and the struggle to keep his family together. But in the end, he's still here, scarred, yes, but unbroken. Dwayne "Dog" Chapman has lived a life most couldn't imagine. And through every chase, heartbreak, and battle, he's proven one thing above all, that no matter how dark life gets, you can always fight your way back toward the light.